Hey, you guys, it's me, Gloria, with Fit for Life 24/7. So today, I'm going to combine a couple of topics. On my channel, I like to talk about mental health, physical health, and business because those are things that I'm engaged in. I usually talk about them separately, but today I'm going to kind of put everything together. So let's jump right in. My main topic, the primary topic, is business and entrepreneurship, and the things that you should consider before going into business or being an entrepreneur. So the first one is do your research. That's fairly common and known knowledge. Doing research on the history of whatever type of business you want to do, looking at the current status of that business or type of related work, and then the future, the projected forecast for your business or service that you want to provide. So that's kind of basic and simple. The next one is mental health. So I always like to talk about mental health because I think it falls right under spirituality when it comes to importance. So with mental health, when you're entering a business or want to be an entrepreneur, and I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a therapist, I am an entrepreneur. So you need to consider your mental health and who you are as a person. How much can you handle? How much stress can you handle? How much change can you handle? Because with business is different, understand? So a lot of times we think business is about morality, but it's not, at least not in the United States. It's about capitalism. And it's not, we can kind of get confused with greediness being hidden or wearing the face of in God we trust. It's not a moral concept. It's about capitalism and making money. So if you feel uncomfortable with that, because some people do feel uncomfortable with being in business to make money, you know, money sometimes is seen as evil. You're in business, you have to make decisions, you have to make choices for the growth or success of the business itself. It's not personal. It's not even a morality thing. It's about business. Some people don't like that. Some people can't deal with that, you know, and so that's why I say you have to check in with your mental health. You know, who are you? What type of person are you? What are your values and your belief system? If you believe like, okay, I got to do this for the benefit of the people, it could kind of trip you up. Because if you think about it like this, you might have a business where you're doing something to help the community and you might have influence and you might be successful for that. But whatever it is you're trying to improve or whoever you're trying to serve for whatever reason. Let's use an example. Say you're serving the underprivileged or the neglected, let's say poverty, and you want to create a business or a service that will benefit people that are living in poverty. But you have to know that poverty and a lot of different things, they're an energy. They are an energy and a vibration. Your business could have impact on a particular community or a particular person, but you will never get rid of poverty. You cannot work hard enough. You cannot build a business successful enough to get rid of poverty. And that's like with other things also. Providing legal services to help the injustice that goes on. But you will never get rid of injustice, racism, sexism, crime. It's been going on from the beginning of time, and you're not going to get rid of it. It's just going to transfer. You may have influence or you may impact a particular community or a particular person, but you're not going to get rid of what you may consider negative. You can't get rid of poverty because you wouldn't be able to experience abundance. Poverty and abundance have to coexist. Your intentions and your motives are to get rid of something negative and it doesn't happen. You might be disappointed or you might get upset, you know, so you really have to know who you are and your mindset and the way you think and the way you feel and the way you go about doing things as an entrepreneur and as a business person. Now, I think there's a difference between abuse versus handling your business. You know, abuse could put other people in danger. But here again, you're not going to be able to get rid of the things people do that don't serve others. You may have an impact and you may influence a particular group of people or a particular person. So you got to think about that. How do you handle stress? How do you handle conflict? Do you fall apart? Do you get upset? Do you get depressed? How do you handle that conflict? What is your capacity level? What's your tolerance level for things not going your way or something going in a negative way? You have to think about that. It's like the stock market. Emotions might be going up and down, up and down, up and down, depending on what is going on in your business or the service that you provide. So you have to almost have a mindset of stability. Your mental health has to be stable. I would say if you are having some real issues with mental health, probably just wait until your mental health, your inner being is stable. I know, like, when I was thinking about getting into business in 2018, 2019, and I was praying about it. I was talking to God about it. And I was like, I was thinking, what it would take. And I was making promises to God. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to quit. Even if it doesn't make money the first couple of years, if this happens, if that happens, I'm going to be committed. And then 2020 came. And I'm going to be honest and transparent. I was very, like, frustrated and upset. I was upset. I was mad at God because I was like, out of all the times, something could have happened, or that I would start a business, it would be at the same time as the pandemic. What is the likelihood of that? And I had gave my word to God. It's like, to give your word to others, that's a level of accountability. But to give your word to God, that's a whole nother level. You're going to have to follow that through, baby. So, I did keep going, and it did benefit me. And so, like, I thought I had made a bad decision. I thought I made a bad choice, but I kept going because it was something I was doing anyway. I was going to keep working out and keep taking care of myself anyway, So I just kept going, and eventually I didn't know that the government would be giving out funds for businesses that lost income, even your projected income that you thought you were going to get from your services or your business. We received monies for that. I think altogether I received about $25,000. I never would have dreamed I would have received that from a business the first 3 to 6 months. I didn't. So I was the one that didn't know what I was thinking about. So you got to be careful of making promises. You have to be careful about what you commit to. You have to be careful about making promises to other people and to God, because in reality, you really don't know what's going to happen. But those people are going to hold you accountable. I believe God will hold you accountable for what you commit and promise. So, I would just think about that. You have to have a stable mental health, and you have to demonstrate emotional intelligence. The next one is, when do you need your money? Do you need the money? Did you need the money like a month ago? When are you expecting your income to come through? When do you need your money? That is something to think about when you enter into a business, because are you thinking long term with your business or short term? I started off doing Instacart and Uber. I knew I was going into the business of transportation, but I started off doing things because I needed my money right then. I needed it that month to help pay for bills while I was out of work. So, if you're thinking of a business that may require you to put and invest a lot of time before you get your money, you might want to think about that. How much money does it cost to enter into this business? How much money would it cost, or would you lose to exit this business? Because here again, we live in the world of capitalism. And so if you needed your money like last month, and you're putting and investing all this energy into a business that may not show profit for another 2 or 3 years, it might be a failure. You would have learned a lesson, but it may not be successful. So you got to think about, when do you need your money? How much money are you looking to make? How much money can you tolerate losing? That's why we're doing it, to make money. We have different inspirations, different motivation, but we're doing it to increase our income. We're doing it for financial freedom. So if I'm in a business or I'm providing a service and I look like from year to year, I'm not gaining a profit, I'm not increasing my income, I'm not going to even continue doing it. Like, what's your situation? What's your situation? How much time can you put into this business? How much money can you put into this business? If you have babies and small kids, it might be limited. It depends on your situation, how much support you have, how quickly can you recover, how quickly can you bounce back from a loss. You would need to think about that, because having a business or entrepreneurship is not wrong. I know it was a video put out about Tabitha Brown saying to leave your business and go back to your 9 to 5. I don't agree with that. I think you're doing business whether you call it or label it a business or not. You're always interacting and transferring and doing transactions. It don't necessarily have to be money. It could be resources. It could be assets that you're transacting. So I feel like you're in business even if you don't call it a business. You're transacting and doing transactions with other people. So yeah, think about that. The last thing is your business boundaries, your business exit plan. What are your boundaries? Kind of like going to the previous number 3 that I was just talking about and referring to, when you need your money. It is connected to your exit plan and your boundaries. You can tolerate losing $500, $1,000, depend on your own economic status. But for some households or for some people, losing $1,000 could put them out on the streets. So you would need to think about that. What is your boundaries? How much energy are you willing to invest in your service? Do you have 3 days a week? Do you have 7 days a week? Do you have 5 days a week? How much time? If this business is taking up 80% of your time, that might be a boundary you need to set and say, hey, I need to modify, change it, shift, or let it go. If you look at your, I was talking to an accountant, and he was saying you should evaluate from month to month how much money you're earning, how much profit you're making from month to month. If you're looking at 4 or 5 months of taking a loss, you might need to shift, you might need to modify, you might need to exit. What is your exit plan? Because I've found that a lot of services and a lot of businesses, after a certain amount of time, they're no longer profitable. After maybe about 5 or 7 years, it may not be profitable. You might need to extend, you might need to pivot, you might need to modify your business, because things change so rapidly. And now we're in this era of the AI technology. Things are changing rapidly. So, the trend could be this year or this month, and something can happen and the trend will change. Things are changing all the time. That's the one thing I can almost guarantee, is that change will come. So when things change, you got to change. When things change, you need to change. So these are all some things to really consider if you want to be an entrepreneur officially and get registered in the 1099 and all of that. Just think about it. Think about the history of the service you're going to provide. Think about where that service is currently at. Is it in demand? Is it projected to grow? Think about your own mental health and physical health. Think about your mental health. Can you tolerate disappointment? Can you tolerate rejection? Can you tolerate mentally a loss? Or are you going to give up, get depressed every time something happens? When do you need your money? Do you need to get your money weekly so you can pay off expenses and bills? When do you need to get your money to reinvest into the company, to keep going, to buy new products? when you don't get your money, where's the money going to come from? So when you get your money is important. And lastly, what's the exit plan? What are your business boundaries? The things you will accept and the things you won't accept. The things you're willing to do and the things you're not willing to do. And if you're not willing to do it, you're going to bounce or you're going to exit. So those are some things to just kind of think about. I think we're going into a year of great opportunities, a lot of different opportunities, but you always have to be evaluating and assessing and observing. That takes a lot of attention. You have to be evaluating, observing, and assessing. Along with that, upgrading your skills. You're going to have to keep upgrading your skills. It's a lot of people that have a high resistance to AI. But it's just like a cassette tape. You won't find a car or vehicle that's in high demand with a cassette tape. Probably not even a CD player. Like, those things have trended out, and nobody wants to go back to that. They have a new law in the schools that you can't bring your cell phone. That's probably not going to work. People are already dependent on their cell phones. They're not going to want to go back. You're not going to want to go back to those things that we used to do, like sending it through the mail, when you could just jump on your email, when you could just text somebody the information. You're not going to want to go back to mailing it. That might take about 3 to 4 days. You got to get a stamp. And then it might be situations that might even cause a delay for the mail to go out. When you could just type it on your computer, push go. It's an email sent. You can do text messaging. We getting information in real time. Nobody wants to go back to the old methods or strategies. That's mainly just what it is. It's like what I said earlier. It's not moral. Now, the way you use it, you can use it for good or you can use it for bad. But it's just the evolving of technology. It's just evolving, moving faster, moving more effectively. Will there be some negative outcome? Yeah, probably so. But we are humans. We find a way to adapt. We always find a way to adapt to changes. So that's my rant and rave for today. Bye-bye for now. Subscribe to my channel, Fit for Life 24/7. Talk to you later.